Hello and happy Tuesday, everybody. How are you doing tonight? I can see Tina Bug in my stream. I hope you're doing well. Welcome in, welcome in. Always happy to have you here. Found out some interesting things as an aside. When I tried to get my stream named, found out I couldn't say Chinese uh, almond fried chicken. I couldn't say Asian almond fried chicken. Apparently, those are moderated titles, um, which seems a little odd to me, but okay. Um, I guess that goes with the whole. Uh, I guess that goes with the whole idea of uh, racial possible things. So um, I am going to be making quite the feast tonight. I am going to be. Hello, Mrs. Nagatron. Welcome in. Nice to see you. For some reason, I now have part of my uh, screen popped off. Honey, oh, there you go. All right. Welcome in, Mrs. Nagatron. Tonight I'm going to be doing quite the feast. I am going to be making almond fried chicken with almond gravy, and I will be making egg fried rice. And because my mother cannot have either one of those things, I am going to be making a sweet and sour sauce for her, which is what I am going to start with tonight. And sweet and sour sauces, well, they vary as much as barbecue sauces do, really. Um, when I was a young little whippersnapper, we went to a restaurant all the time in Bellevue called the Ming Tree. And it's not there anymore, which is sad because it took me 30 years to find another um, restaurant that used the same base for their sweet and sour sauce that the Ming Tree did. And that's a cherry base, which is different. Most use a pineapple base, and it doesn't quite have the depth that the cherry base does, and I missed that. Um, but I managed to find a recipe for it. Uh, well, I basically made a cheating sort of recipe at it. It starts with a base of cherry pie filling. You could go and get canned cherries in their own juice and use cornstarch to thicken the juice and do it that way, but for my intents and purposes, the cherry pie filling is good enough. Uh, it's full of a lot of things. It has onions in it and green peppers. It has pineapple chunks. And of course, it has cherries. So uh, it is a nice, um, it's a busy little sauce, shall we say, that's very easy to come together. The sour part of it is provided by the um, apple cider vinegar. And no, I'm sorry, I don't have a recipe for this written up, but I will endeavor to do that after stream. Um, I discovered that I never did write it down, and shame on me, because that's part of what my whole cooking um, mania came from, was the desire to not lose the recipes that everybody has and don't write down. So I will write that down. I will put it up in the stream recipes. And as for right now, you have my egg fried rice recipe, you have the almond fried chicken, and you have the almond gravy. And this is not what you would get if you would go into a Chinese restaurant now and ask for almond chicken. What you would get would be sort of a non-hot version of Kung Pao chicken. Except that it uses almonds. It would have chunks of almond in it, and it would have bits of chicken and celery and onion, and it would be in a gravy that is basically just a thickened chicken broth, and it wouldn't be at all like the old Americanized version that I grew up with, which was a piece of nicely fried chicken with a gravy that had uh, almond paste in it and was served to you on a little bed of shredded lettuce, and it had the basically almond um, gravy on the side. And that would be definitely not what you get today. But I managed to figure out with much trial and error how that gravy was made. And I have that recipe now, and it is one of the ones that I cherish. It was always my father's favorite recipe. Um, when we went in to get chicken, or when we went in to get a Chinese meal, we always got a combination meal. And so we always had the um, barbecued pork and egg flour soup that I made the last uh, stream. And then it didn't matter what else was in there. There was always sweet and sour pork for Mom because she loves sweet and sour with a passion like I've not seen in anything except in books of hobbits for mushrooms. So that's where the uh, sweet and sour is coming from tonight. You could put it on chicken, you could put it on shrimp. It goes really nicely on rice, which is what she's going to get it on as in addition. And it goes really well with pork and chicken, and you can put it on beef if you want. I've never tried it on beef, but um, aside from beef chow yuck, I haven't really come across much in the way of beef in Chinese recipes, and well, beef chow mein. So I have got a sweet onion here, and I am going to dice about half of that. The other half is going to be used in my egg fried rice. And let me do away with all the little onion skins and little bits. Is the is is the music volume a little high for you guys, or is it okay? I'm going to assume it's fine since I didn't get any shrieks of audio. Uh, I have a new follower to thank for following since the last time I had a stream, and that is Acidic Virus, who is a long dark streamer. Okay. Uh, so he's a long dark streamer, nice guy. If you are addicted to the game as I am, give him a look and give him a follow if you like what he's doing. Tina Bug is another streamer. If we could get a shout out for Tina Bug, that would be awesome. And Mrs. Nagatron is a help streamer for Nagatron. So if we could give him a shout out as well, that would be awesome. They also stream The Long Dark. I don't know if they stream anything else because I pretty much only watch The Long Dark. So if they do stream other things, Nog has a wonderful speaking voice, and he likes to do science based on um, The Long Dark, trying to prove different stream hostess. There we go. You're Mrs. Nog, just like Andrew is Mr. Hedgie. Except I think that he does more computery things than you do, since he's the IT tech. We're just going to dice this nice and small. It's not going to be a large presence in the sauce, but it does need to be there. And hey, why not? A little bit more vegetables in the sweet and sour is always good to offset all that sweet. So it's basically half of a sweet onion, and we have got green pepper. get that out of the way. And it takes a 21-ounce can of pie filling. So you know this is healthy for you, right? uh, and woohoo! Then we also have, you can use tidbits, but I've got some pineapple chunks here. As you can see, it's the larger chunks. It's not rings or anything, but and it's packed in fruit juice only. I think that's becoming more and more prevalent, but we really don't want to get anything packed in syrup. This is sweet enough. So this is going to take, I am going to take my little bit of oil, maybe a teaspoon, and put that in a non-stick pan. I have got a copper coat non-stick pan here, and I will pull the plate forward as soon as I get the vegetables into the pan. I don't think it's plugged in yet. It's not. Okay, let us take and plug that in so that we can have some heat to this. And I will take and put the peppers. And you don't want to sweat down the onions completely like you would if you were cooking this in a fried rice. Yeah, I don't know what fell over either, honey. I know that I would like to play some Christmas music for you all, but I didn't want to. A lot of it is religious in tone, and while that's fine for some of us, you know, I didn't want to offend anyone either um, of another religion or those of no religion that would rather just not. So I decided to leave that off, and it turns out I'm lucky that I did because there's been some issues with some streamers that have put Christmas music on their streams. Not down with Christmas. Shame on you. You know very well after living with me for 12 years that I'm an absolute and utter Christmas nut. And dem's fighting words. And you can't distract me with cute corgi pictures either. So, I will turn on, put this on, say a medium-high heat, especially because as we are starting this, it is in a, this is my Farberware hot plate, which is an absolutely lovely one. It's probably the best I've ever come across. It has solid cast iron um, heating elements here instead of using a coil like a lot of them do. So it takes it a little while to heat up, but when it does heat up, it has a beautifully even heat. It's wonderful. Um, so we're going to give this the start of a little bit of a cook as soon as we can get it there. And as I said, this is the copper uh, coat. It works really well. I like it better than like, oh, what is the name of that stuff? The usual first um, coating. Sorry, I've had no caffeine today. Uh, it was oh, the first nonstick coating that was always so tender, and you had to be so careful with it, and uh, it always started coming off after a while of use or using it under higher heats. And this new generation they've got that has the diamond coat in it, that has the well, you see, this is the copper version. Well, I have a diamond coat that's in my deep frying electric frying pan that I have, and I absolutely adore that. You actually can use metal implements in this, but I just can't bring myself to. Too many years of needing to have the other treated with, kid gloves. And that really doesn't work in the kitchen, let's be honest. Teflon, that's it. Teflon. Yeah, that's after a little while it starts flaking off into your food, and that just can't be good. So at that point you need to buy a whole nother set. And you couldn't wash it in the dishwasher, and you couldn't have any kind of grit on it, and yeah, it was just way too delicate. So as I said, my memories of the Chinese food are definitely what would be called the Americanized Chinese food that's really hard to find these days. And this week I'm going to be cooking pretty much all Chinese food. My birthday is coming up on this weekend, and I've been having a hankering for Chinese food. Unfortunately, right now my stomach is not cooperating with me, so I'm probably going to be having rice. But I am going to be making this almond fried chicken, which is definitely an Americanized version. This sweet and sour, which is definitely an Americanized version. I'm going to be adding in a bonus stream probably Thursday, possibly Friday, depends on how it goes. And I'll be making some chicken egg rolls. And haven't decided what I'm going to make Saturday yet. That may be another Chinese dish, or I may decide by that time that I'll make myself some nice Mexican dish, maybe some burritos, or because every year my birthday is on the 19th. Thank you. Uh, every year when I was growing up, my father traveled at least half the month. He worked for the government, and his job was 50% travel. And so a lot of celebrations got put off, but he was always here at Christmas. However, he's one of those people that would very happily put up a tree the day before Christmas and take it down the day after. And as I've mentioned to some people, I've had my Christmas tree up now continuously for 6 years because it makes me happy. My best memories are of Christmases. When I was a little kid, we would decorate the Christmas tree, and we usually did it on my birthday, as a matter of fact, since it was the 19th. And it would be an evening of it. The rule in our family was always you could have whatever you wanted to eat for your birthday dinner. And because we never really ate Mexican food, um, we I would ask for tacos because I love tacos, love taco salad specifically. And so I would always ask for taco salad. I would always want to go and help pick out the Christmas tree on my birthday. And then we would have taco salads and Christmas music in the background. There was usually a Christmas special on, Frosty the Snowman, or, you know, uh, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, or um, The Year Without a Santa Claus, one of my favorites. And it was the old animation stuff, but that would be on in the background, and we would be decorating the Christmas tree with Mom and Dad's old glass ornaments and their tree topper that I thought was the prettiest thing in the world, and the lights that would be sparkling, and they were colored lights. And when we were done with that, we'd usually have a fire, and at some point I would I would sneak out of bed and go into the family room where we had the Christmas tree, and I would turn the lights on again, and at the time I could fit under the Christmas tree. I'd go under there with my teddy bear and my pillow and my blanket that was my nap blanket from the bed, and I would lay underneath the Christmas tree, and I would look up at the lights, and it was just just so beautiful and peaceful, and I felt surrounded by this beautiful glittery world. And it's just lovely memories. Um, so that's what we always did. Hydrate. Okay. I am going to hydrate now. Thank you very much for both spending my little gold rings and reminding me to drink, which is good. And I've got a sun-kissed orange zero sugar soda here, which I am going to be drinking. Thank you. I guess that's another way to get me to shut up too. So anyway, I've got this now where the burner is heated up and the onions and peppers are starting to sweat a little bit, which is they're starting to turn. The onions are starting to turn a little translucent, which is good. That cooks both sweetness in and some of the bite of an onion out. And at this point, I'm going to add in the pie filling. And as I said, all Chinese restaurants have their own recipes. They usually involve ketchup. I don't put ketchup in mine. It's a sweet sauce, usually based in pineapple. Sometimes it can be based in orange. And in 2 restaurants that I've managed to find in many different states, they used cherry. And the cherry just has a deeper flavor, I think. It has more of an identifiable flavor, and a sweet and tart cherry flavor is really nice with a lot of meats. So I'm going to add that in here. And it doesn't really get thinned by anything except some of the pineapple juice, which I'm going to pour in here now. And it also gets thinned by the vinegar, which is completely situational on how much you're making. A couple tablespoons at most at this amount, because you don't really want it to be sour. You don't want it to taste vinegary. You just want it to have that slight sourness, but not taste like you've dumped a bunch of vinegar in. So that's just not what you're looking for at all. So I'm going to add the pineapple to this and a little bit more of the juice to thin it. And this is a 15-ounce jar. I tend to like a lot of fruit when we're doing this. It's also to the preference of our family, so. And there we have got the fruit and everything done. I would normally do this in a saucepan, but I'm going to be making gravy in the saucepan that I like to use, so we're going to do it in a frying pan. And this really isn't supposed to be a thin sauce. It's really supposed to be pretty thick. And it's definitely giving us thickness. Now, as I said, you want to add, and I use apple cider vinegar for this. And yes, I use Heinz by preference because it has the best flavor, in my opinion, and somebody screwed the lid down really tightly on this. And I can't get it off. Honey. Sweetie pie. This is how you call your husband. And he always can't see. It's really on there, isn't it? Okay. Thank you, honey.
You do realize we have more than one saucepan, right?
No. I've kind of lost track of what we've got and not got. So at this point, I've turned this down to about medium. And cool. Let's not use that one. And I'm going to measure in a tablespoon at a time, some apple cider vinegar, and I'm going to use with this amount. That is 1 tablespoon, and then I'm going to mix it in and see what the sourness level is. And this has got a lot of sweet, so if you would normally not use a lot of vinegar, um, you're probably going to have to use more than you would originally think. And again, as I said, this is a matter of personal taste, so you'll want to taste this as you go along because, for instance, how much sour you want may be different than how much sour I want. You may want to have yours be sharper or much milder. So always taste, much easier to add it incrementally. If you think you're only going to want a tablespoon, add it in by the teaspoon. So add in 3 teaspoons one at a time and taste it and see if you've got it, and then you can go ahead and add more later on. It's impossible to take it out, easy to add it in. So I am going to now carefully taste this. Needs a little bit more, but not a lot. So I am going to add part of a tablespoon to it, about a half, which is about a teaspoon and a half. So I'm going to mix that in. And then our sweet and sour sauce will be done. Because you don't really have to cook it, just getting the vegetables softened a little bit and combining the vinegar with the sweet. This is pretty much a done deal sauce. It's really easy to make. It doesn't taste like it was easy to make, and most people would kind of giggle if you told them you made it with pie filling, but it makes the best flavor, so it's the easiest to do. And as you see, it's already a lovely thickened sauce, so that's another benefit to doing it with the pie filling, because the pie filling has already got the thickeners in it. So let's use a different spoon, and we'll try the sauce again. Perfect. Okay, so we have got that out of the way. And I need to put that in a container. Oh, shoot. Um, I dumped all the containers on the floor out of my reach. They're over there, far side of the chair. Thank you. So I'm going to get this out of the way and then hand him the frying pan so that that will not get any ickiness turned into tar on it. There you go. Yep, I will. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to work on is the almond chicken gravy because I want to get all the sauces out of the way. I have a question. Better than Bragg's? Yeah, I think so. Again, it's personal taste. If you like a different brand, use a different brand. Um, there's not really a right answer. I would just be careful with some of the organics, which have a tendency to have a sweeter flavor, and that can throw it off. Welcome in, Silvery Frost. How are you? You're joining us today for a Asian food feast. Leading up to my birthday, I wanted Chinese food, so Chinese food I'm getting. I have just made a sweet and sour sauce that will be added to my mother's chicken that I'm making because she can't have the gravy or the fried rice because that has a lot of sodium products in it and that would be very, very bad for her. So I'm making her sweet and sour, and that's fine because sweet and sour is her favorite anyway. Um, I'm doing good, Silvery Frost. It's I've been feeling kind of bad lately, and I'm feeling better today, so that's always good. Now, I just made sweet and sour sauce for the chicken, and that is it is in a cherry sweet and sour, which is deeper, I think, in flavor than some of the ones that are based in pineapple. And it's what I grew up with, so it's what I like. And I am also going to be making almond fried chicken, which is basically fried chicken in a very light coating of breading. And then I make a almond chicken gravy to go over it, which is what I'm going to do now. And this is a pretty easy thing to make. Although my husband's going to kill me, I also didn't ask for water. It's going to start out with chicken broth, and the recipes are posted as always in the uh, um, stream recipes section. And as I mentioned, I managed to find a boxed chicken broth that doesn't use garlic. So I am using that rather than having to make, while I'm feeling sick, uh, my own chicken stock. And the recipe calls for 2 cups. I am using considerably more. I am using 48 ounces because I am making a ton of almond chicken and a ton of fried rice. And my husband just flicked the back of my head with his finger to let me know that he was displeased that I had forgotten another thing off of my list of what I needed for the stream. So I am making fried rice. I am making almond chicken gravy, which goes with my fried chicken and goes lovely on top of the uh, fried rice as well. And we like to eat it on everything, so it's pretty much pasted across off of everything. So you start with the chicken broth, and you need to bring that to a boil, a slow boil, which means it just starts bubbling. And this is going to use chicken broth. It's got some oyster sauce in it. It has some soy sauce in it. It has some sage, which doesn't sound very Asian in general, but as I said, this is an Americanized recipe. Oh, thank you very much for the sub, Silvery Frost. I appreciate that so much. Welcome into the uh, welcome into my Pigloo, I guess I would say. There is a special section for subscribers. If you link your account to Discord, that gives you a different room you can look in my Discord. But in any case, everybody's welcome in my Discord. Love to see you in there. Any questions, stream suggestions, requests, anything like that. And woohoo! I opened up the bottle by myself. Yay! This has got soy sauce and oyster sauce and sage and parsley and chicken broth and almond paste. And you have to watch how much almond paste you put in it or it tastes like liquid peanut butter. And that's really, yes, we also accept pets, pictures of pets. So I have got a teaspoon of parsley in this, not as much as I usually put in. Parsley, in addition to looking pretty in sauces and such, also is high in iron. And iron is something I'm chronically short of. So I add it into a lot of different of my recipes where maybe other people don't. I've got sage in there because sage is so lovely with um, sage is just so lovely with chicken. And I'm using rubbed sage leaves, and for the amount the recipe has, it is a quarter teaspoon, so it's not really much. But because I'm doing multiples of that, I'm putting a whole teaspoon in. And I add in a tablespoon of soy sauce. So I am going to get out my tablespoon and use the other side. And this has not been opened yet. So I will remove the top from that. And I use a low sodium uh, soy sauce, which, as we've restricted the sodium in the family, regular soy sauce is just too intensely saline for me. And um, low sodium soy sauce, like light soy sauce, and that's not like lower calorie, that's actually referring to the color of it. It is lighter in flavor than a dark soy sauce. So I'm adding a tablespoon of soy and about a half again because this is um, more than double. So I've got that in there, and then I'm going to add in some of the oyster sauce, which doesn't taste like oysters, really doesn't. It is one of those things that it it adds umami, which is there's different tastes. There's salty, there's sour, there's sweet. Umami is an undefinable flavor. Mushrooms have umami, so do oysters, and it's something that adds in. It's in a lot of Asian foods, and it adds that flavor that says this is an Asian recipe and not a Midwest one. It just adds that something extra that's kind of indefinable, and you might not know what it is you're tasting, but chances are it's oyster sauce. And oyster sauce is basically sugar, salt, oyster extracts, oysters, and it does use MSG, so if you're sensitive to that, beware of that. And uses cornstarch and wheat flour. So there's no garlic in it, which is good for me because I can't do garlic. And that is a really nice flavor that I just don't really want to give up. So I would if it had garlic in it because it stops my breathing. But hey, also causes other problems like I've been suffering lately, where my stomach is just unhappy with me. And now I try to open the almond butter. And you really do need almond butter because you can taste the almond in it rather than peanut. And I have got a no stir almond butter. And it's really the only thing we use it for in the house. So, woo, smell those almonds. Uh, it is a very pungent scent. Different by a lot than what you would get from peanut butter. Just like you can tell the difference if you're eating a peanut or you're eating an almond, you can tell the difference. You can tell the difference in this too. This uses 3 tablespoons of almond butter, And this has not yet reached a boil. I am going to use a spoon to scrape this out of there and put it in. I am going to end up adding 4 tablespoons to this because it has more broth in here than what's called for in the recipe. You can buy almond butter at Costco in a really large container for $9, or you could buy an itty bitty little one like I have here for about $6. So it's up to you what you do. I try to save the money whenever I can, as long as the quality is the same. And so I've got this in here now. And what you need to do is you need to stir this around with a whisk as the broth is heating up, because we need to make sure that what we have is melted. So I will get my whisk and turn up the heat to high because this isn't heating very fast. It's a heavy bottom pot, which is always a good idea to cook with when you're doing any kind of sauce, because the heat will transmit through the pot bottom slower, so you're less likely to have the contents of your pot burned to the bottom. And this is heating up. You can see that um, it is actually changing consistency here. It's no longer a clear broth, it's cloudy from the almonds. And that's what you want. So maybe you can't see it very well. Well, you can see that you can't see the bottom. It's not clear anymore, at least. What was that? It was almond butter. I use no stir almond butter. It basically means you don't have to stir it up before you use it. It says right there, no stir almond butter. And just like most peanut butters you get are considered no stir, they used to, once upon a time, separate out, and you would have to stir them. You'd have to keep them in the refrigerator and all that, and what you'd have is a big oil slick of either the peanut oils, or in this case the almond oils, on top, and what was down below was very, very solid. And you'd always have to use some real arm power to stir through the peanut butter jars. And then they came up with a way to make it so they didn't separate, and the world said, "Yay!" And millions of kids since then have been able to make their own sandwiches without having oil pour all over the counters, which is always good. So we're going to get that melting there, and it's feeling pretty liquid now, so that's good. I just need to bring this up to a simmer, and then I am going to have to make a roux. Well, they still separate to a little bit, but things like your brands like Skippy almost never do. We are going to take and get the flour and the water and put them in a container, because you need to make a slurry. You could use cornstarch for this if you want, or you could use arrowroot. Depends on if you're trying to avoid glutens. And I will start with basically 3/4 of a cup of water, because I always add a little bit more water. Normally they say to do equal parts um, water and flour for this. I always do a little bit more water so it's a little bit easier to stir. So I'm going to add half a cup of flour to this. And I am being a bad person. I have a stream upgrade goal. Um, and what it will buy that we're asking for $300 for is an additional camera, the camera mounts, and some other equipment that we need to make my stream a little nicer so you have more than one camera to look at. And that would be wonderful for you guys to be able to see my prep table area and some of the other things I do, which right now are off camera because it's a little difficult when I'm cooking something to show you that I've got flour and water in a different container. And now I'm going to whisk it up so that it doesn't have any lumps in it. Feel free, if you're more comfortable with it, to use a hand blender with it, like a Braun or a Cuisinart or whatever have you, the stick blenders basically. That will get all of your lumps out and all will be good. You can do it with a whisk as well. They have some of those little shakers that you can get that have a little flippy thing in the top, and you fill it up with your water and your flour or whatever and shake it, and instead that gives you the mix. I am going to turn the temperature down on this because it doesn't need to be on high. You can see it's getting nice and foamy both from my stirring and from the temperature. And I am now going to stir the flour and water into here, and that will provide the thickening that we need to make the gravy. So I've got that going now, and you need to have it be thick enough to coat the back of a spoon. If you like thinner gravy, have thinner gravy. If you like it thicker, wait a little bit longer and it will thicken up. This is already thickening both from the peanut butter and from, almond butter, and from the thickeners that I add. If you have any questions at all, please go ahead and ask. What you need to do is you need to cook this for a while at a simmer, and you stir constantly because you don't want to get lumps. You don't want to have it get stuck to the bottom. You can see it's already changed appearance now, and that's what you want it to do. It's turning into a gravy as it thickens. It will do that. And you need to let it cook so that the thickeners themselves, whatever it is you use, the cornstarch or the flour, actually are cooked so you don't have a raw floury taste to it, because that'll put you off if you've ever tried to make gravy for Thanksgiving or whatever. You know that sometimes the gravy just tastes floury, and that's why. It's because you haven't cooked it long enough. And this is already getting pretty thick. And if it happens that when you taste it, if it tastes floury still, but it's already as thick as you want it to go, just add a little bit of water to it, say maybe half a cup. That will thin it down and give it longer for it to cook. It doesn't really take long, just a minute or two. So, all right. I'm going to take another clean spoon. It's fortunate we have so many out here. And I'm going to taste this to check it for both for the thickness, and when I say coat the back of a spoon, you put it in here and you lift it up and you run your finger across the back. And you know what? You don't let your finger linger there because your spoon is now hot. And you see how thick it is when it's coating the back of the spoon. This isn't quite thick enough, but I'm going to taste the seasoning in it, see if it needs anything more. No, it's pretty good. Um, I'm going to lower this down to a medium heat now because I don't want it to burn. And as you can clearly see, it is boiling. Another reason why it was really hot when I stuck my finger on the spoon and just left it there. Illustrative purposes don't always pay off. Okay, so I've got my almond chicken gravy. And you can taste in it, you can taste a little bit of soy, you can definitely taste the almond, but you can still taste the chicken. So it really is a nice mix between chicken and almond. And that recipe is up there with the fried chicken of the recipe that goes with this. And it's a very plain, um, just salt and pepper and cornstarch and flour in equal measure, and then you put your chicken in that and you fry it. Not difficult. Okay, so this is done, and I'm gonna take and put this in yet another dish so that I have it and it's good. Let's make sure I don't dump this because that would make me cry. Okay. All right. So I now have that out. I have my almond chicken in a nice piece of Tupperware, and it is absolutely smoking hot. And I will put that to the side and try to get rid of the pan and get the other unplugged and out of the way, so hopefully it can go. The last thing I'm going to be making today, I am going to have my husband get this out of the way so I don't end up dumping this on the floor. Careful, it's very heavy. Okay, so I've got this. I will unplug my hot plate and move it back out of the way. Oh, my husband's going to be brave and get rid of it. Okay, there you go. So we've got that out of the way, and the next thing we're bringing in is going to be my wok. All of the equipment that I use on stream is also in a section of my Discord, and this is my fabulous wok, which has dust in it. That's not good. Let's get the dust out. And all right, which side is the side with the, there it is. That is the Presto plug. And this is this plug, which is really kind of nice. It has a trigger. So when it gets put in there, it stays in there and you don't have to worry about it. So I've got that in place now. And my husband has made a bunch of steamed rice for me in our rice steamer. And let's take a look at this. Get this out of the way. We've got this, I guess that's just a pattern on it. Now an area where I've burned it a little bit. That's not nice. Okay, well, so the first thing we want to do is take a little bit of oil and we're going to put a little bit of oil in here. Thing barbecue. Okay, I am done with vinegar. And I am going to push this back for now, and I'm going to cut up some onion because I need to put some onion in here. So that is where my board comes back up. And I go over to the side table here, and I pick up the other half of the sweet onion that I had before, and I start cutting it. And this is once again a dice. It's going to have green onions to be garnished with, and it's going to have green onions have a different taste than sweet onions, so it's really not overdoing the onion. And this is the flavor thing. The green onions are kind of an appearance plus flavor thing, so that's always nice. Ugh, got some little bits of onion skin still hanging out. So, and the professional chefs who may be watching me can pardon me here. I am not a professional chef, but so I'm not cutting very quickly, but it is, however, a nice accurate dice. So I've got the onion here. I'm going to check the recipe really quickly. So for the fried rice, I have got some sweet onion in here. I will be putting in 7 cups of cooked rice, a cup of peas, sliced water chestnuts, scallions or green onions, bean sprouts, 6 eggs. I'm adding the sweet onion in here in place of some of the other onions. So the first thing you need to do with this is cook the eggs. So because the eggs in it are basically scrambled. So I will take and get another handy dandy container. You can use more eggs, you can use less eggs. We use more because this is egg fried rice. So the primary protein source in it is egg. I have got some nice large eggs. We're going to use 6 eggs here, and I'll move the actual egg container out of the way. So 6 large eggs. Always examine your eggs as you put them in here. They shouldn't look cloudy. They shouldn't have discoloration in them. If you find one of those eggs that has 2 yolks, score. Doesn't do anything to the egg. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just basically got twins. It would never hatch, but that's because it doesn't have enough nutrients or space to grow 2 little chickens in it. But a lot of people really like double yolk eggs. My husband's mother worked for a chicken place, and she got to bring home the double yolk eggs. They couldn't sell them, so the employees got them. Happy employees. Because really, what's the best part of the egg anyway? It's not the white. It's the yolk. That's the part that has all the flavor. So that's our 6 eggs. And I do not have a second whisk. And my whisk has run away, so I will now take and stir this up with a fork. And I'm never quite sure why. When my husband whisks eggs, he ends up with eggs everywhere. It's probably just practice. I've been whisking eggs a lot longer than he's been alive. So there's the egg yolks. And I am going to turn the wok on now. And I am going to turn it on to about half heat. And now that I have these onions, I'm going to put them in the same container that I have the peas in. And about half the time I use a sweet pea, the other half the time I use snow peas because I like snow peas better than these. And I think they just lend a really nice, delicate sweetness to the dish. So there, I've got those off to the side. And I will now move my cutting board off to the side again because I won't need it until I am dicing or slicing the green onions. And I will move the wok up here. And I will be using one of my favorite kitchen implements. Can you say it with me? What is it? Spatula. Um, you don't have to worry about anything, Silvery Frost. I wasn't taking anything you said badly. Wok does a lovely job. Real woks do require a lot of maintenance. They don't have, for instance, a non-stick coating. They have, you know, they're made of steel and they don't have a nice flat bottom, and they're generally used with open flame. So seasoning makes them so that they eventually get to the point where they're kind of non-stick, but they're not real non-stick, not like this. And for the purposes of a home kitchen, this is fine. As you see, this, like most woks, runs on a high temperature and cooks things very fast. Um, the spatula, of course, works very well for scooping and incorporating a little bit so they don't get burned. And all you're really doing is making scrambled eggs with this, and then that will go off to the side and be added later at the very end, because otherwise what you'd end up with is really beaten up eggs. Now, I have seen professional chefs with real woks over the big high heat open flame. They make their fried rice, they make a big pool in the center of it open, and they do the eggs at the end, but I'm not that good. I have the effect in the end. That's all that really matters. You need to get these so they are just cooked through. And that doesn't take long in a wok. Doesn't take long in a regular frying pan either, but as you can see, nothing's sticking between the oil and the non-stick. We're not going to have anything sticking anywhere. Now, you would still be adding the eggs to this if you were going to make chicken fried rice or pork fried rice, shrimp fried rice, or a combination, but you wouldn't probably be having as much egg. My husband and I really like egg fried rice. We gained a high appreciation of it when we were first married, and I wasn't making a heck of a lot of money, and for a while between my job contracts that I was out on, we would be extremely low in money, so we would buy, packages of 5 dozen eggs, and we would have eggs everything. Eggs fried rice were really high up there because it's easy to make, we both like it, and it was cheap. Had a nice source of protein in the eggs, and that was what was important. So, I have now got these done, just that fast. You can see that there's a little color on the eggs. You can see here, you can see the little bit of browning, but not too much. And the eggs themselves are just solid inside, and that's when it's appropriate to take them off if you don't want them to bounce like little super balls. So, I will take these off and set them aside. And the lid for that, I don't know where it is, so I won't worry about it for now. Okay, so I will take a little bit more oil, and I am going to start in, and that's about a tablespoon. You don't want to put a lot of oil in at once, or really at all, because you'll end up with oily fried rice, and oh, crap. Never mind. That's never fun. So, I am going to start out by cooking the onions and the peas. This is a fairly fast process. You don't need to do a lot, although I am going to need the oil back at some point. I really do not like the music that's going on right now. It's kind of a little techno for me. There we go. A little bit better at least. So this is probably a medium-high heat here, and that's about what you want it to be at. Medium-high heat on a wok is a pretty high heat. You might be able to hear the sizzle. You could definitely see it in the oil. And this wok is good enough, being a electric wok, and I'm especially impressed by that it can smoke the oil, which the oil, if you pour it in the bottom and you let it sit until it heats up, it gets very liquid looking and it has little ripples across the top of it. And that's usually the point at which you want to stir fry something, is that particular appearance of the oil. And if this wasn't all mixed in with this, it would have it. And you could see that the onions are starting to go translucent, which means they are almost done. And that, once again, it tames the taste of the onions, it tames down any sharpness, and it will bring out a sweetness in the onion, which is, you know, something that you want to do. And I am now going to attempt to put in the rice. Which has recently been cooked. And I can bring that over to here without burning my hands off now. And I am not using the appropriate implement for this. I'm using a spoon. And it really should be using a rice scoop instead, but I'm not. That will not break your rice up like this does. I am adding in the rice. And I'm making quite a bit of it. So I've got 7 cups of cooked rice here. And I need to stir that around again because the wok has not stopped cooking. It's just, I've smothered it now with rice, so. And the problem with giving me a big item, like my big size wok, is that I will try to fill it every time. And I am going to add a couple tablespoons of soy sauce to this. That's about 4 tablespoons. I am also going to add a couple tablespoons of the oyster sauce to this, and then I will start mixing. And that's really pretty important if you don't want to have everything end up a burned mess. As I said, the wok does cook at a very high temperature. Being non-stick, you've got a little bit better chances that you're not going to end up with everything sticking to it. You can see that the whole mass moves quite easily thanks to that non-stick surface. If I didn't have it, hi Nog, welcome in. You came in and joined Mrs. Nog and a lot of the people from the Long Dark community. We've got Silvery Frost here, and yep, I'm making fried rice. I've already made a sweet and sour sauce and the almond gravy, the almond chicken gravy that's going to go on my almond fried chicken and this rice. You don't want to drown this with soy sauce. It's only really supposed to have a little bit of a browned color to it, and that's from soy and from the oyster sauce. Traditional recipes also call for a special kind of wine, a couple tablespoons. I don't have any on hand at the moment, and I really don't notice a difference in flavor. So I would add it in just because it calls for it, but like I said, I don't have it, so no use crying over spilled milk. And as this rice is already cooked, and it's freshly cooked, normally fried rice is made with leftover rice. It's just something they did to use the leftovers. That means you would cook it one day, at least a couple hours in advance, and you'd put it in the refrigerator so it's cold and drier. Really the only difference is that freshly cooked rice tends to be more moist. And since we're frying this in a high temperature wok, it's really not going to be that big of a deal. It's not going to harm it. Some of the moisture is going to cook out anyway. So I keep stirring this to get it combined, and I try my darndest not to touch the edge of the wok again because that hurt. Ow. There are going to be green onions in it towards the end. They're something that's just sort of added in there as well. And I will get to those. And hi Connor, welcome in. That is one of my mods who is in England, so this is insanely early in the morning for him. I can only say getting a bit of my own back for all of his streams, which are insanely early in the morning for me. Then I mod for him. Please give him a shout out if you would, honey. Connor is part owner in a cafe he owns with his uncle and his father. It's called the Roasted Cafe. He cooks absolutely delectable food that even if you have just eaten, you watch him cook this stuff and you are hungry. And that's not surprising. He has a very good business over there, and he's a wonderful young chef. I'm going to taste this, make sure it's got enough of everything. Needs a little bit more soy. So I'm going to put in probably a teaspoon more over the whole thing. And mix that in. And I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit because this is basically done cooking. At this point, I am going to add in the rest of the ingredients, which is water chestnuts sliced. I like a lot of fancy doodads in mine. So I'm going to add in the water chestnuts, and I am going to add in the bean sprouts, and these are mung bean sprouts. They're the standard ones that you would see, and these are canned. You can get them fresh. Hard to find really nice fresh ones outside of an Asian food store. We don't have one near us, unfortunately. Nearest one is about 30 miles away, and we just don't go there anymore, what with COVID and all. So I'm going to mix this through and get everything mixed up and heated through. Other things that I have variably added to this, red bell peppers are nice. Like I said, I have in the past added in the um, snow peas. Uh, you can add another meat source in here, like shrimp or beef or chicken. Barbecued pork is nice, and that's the barbecued pork tenderloin that they generally serve you in Chinese restaurants that I am referring to that would make your pork fried rice. And now that it's basically done, I am going to add the eggs back in. So these get chopped up a bit more as they get mixed through. We don't want to have great big huge chunks of egg, but we do want to have them be identifiable. And at this point, I'm turning the heat off. So we have got enough fried rice for an army, which isn't a problem because for this particular recipe, what we tend to do is I make a lot of the chicken and we put the fried rice into the bottom of a freezer container and we put the gravy over it and then we top it with the chicken and pop it in the freezer and it freezes just beautifully. Microwave it in the microwave and you have an absolutely lovely uh, you know, carefree dinner or lunch at work that everybody will ask you, where did you get that from? And it just smells just amazing. This smells good in and of itself. You add the almond chicken and the gravy from that in it. Yum, yum, yum. So this is done. I will put it aside for now. And I come in on my husband feet to take this away. And that is off. Husband then tastes it. Yummy? That was yum. Chicken, rice, egg. No, you cannot. If you could take the rice away for now, or put it in that container so that it's... And I bring in the big skillet. And this is the one that has such a lovely diamond coat. You saw me make the parmesan, chicken parmesan in it. Let's see. Yes, I used a wok. That was an electric wok with a non-stick surface in it. You could find the recipes in my stream recipes as usual. And what I'm going to be making now for you is going to be the fried chicken that goes with this. And I am going to take a paper towel and dry out this container because I need something to mix the flour and cornstarch in and to coat the chicken in it. And since I don't really want to make chicken goo, I want to make sure that this is dry before I start. All right. So I now have this container here, And I'm going to move this slightly back out of the way. It is the main event. Going to be a little unexciting, but hey, it's just fried chicken. Exactly, bring on the meat. I have got a lot of chicken, which we have thawed, at least partially. And we have got cornstarch and flour. So I'm going to start by mixing the cornstarch and the flour in a half to half ratio. So, oh, I got new cornstarch. And brands really don't matter. Cornstarch is cornstarch. Woo! And I just flipped cornstarch all over me. I do it every time. As Andrew would, as Andrew would joke, I've really got to get a hold on my cocaine habit. Okay, measuring cups. I am going to take and measure. I'm going to start with half a cup of cornstarch. I will probably have to mix this up again. So I've got half a cup of cornstarch here. And because I know I'm going to have more chicken than this is going to cover. And I will have half a cup of flour. So I get out my big flour container, and it is a 1 gallon plastic container with a cup measuring thing in it all the time. And I am going to measure out kind of a heaping half cup. And I am putting it in here. And where I live in Washington is a very humid place, so it's always important to have containers that are actually sealable. Or what you're going to have is mildewed flour and sticky flour and just nasty stuff. So you want to make sure that what you have is dry all the time. And we'll get that out of the way. And I will pick up my other fork. And this is not anything that's really measured. You put, I don't know, probably a half teaspoon of salt in this. Because if you don't season your breading, what you have is just flour. And that's what it tastes like. It tastes like flour. So we add salt to that. And we add some pepper to that. If you don't want it to show, use white pepper. That's really the point of white pepper, is you can't see it. But I don't mind seeing pepper in my salt and pepper, so I use black pepper. And then we want to mix this up so that it's mixed through. And it's another chance to, flip flour and everything all over me and my cute little hedgehog apron here that I've got. I still can't get to its head yet. There it is, hedgehog apron. So we get that mixed up. And that's nice there. And I take the first of my 2 containers of chicken, and I start going through it to make sure that it's cleaned and doesn't have anything nasty on it, like bone. And this has a lot of sinew in this one, so I'm going to cut the sinew off carefully, because I like my fingers the way they are. And people are talking to me. Andrew, did she see what I said? No, I did not. Hedgie, you know I love you, right? Yes, I do. Why do I use half cornstarch? Cornstarch and, all right, he's backing it up because I've really been not paying attention. Uh, did you see what I said? Okay, I'm terrible at noticing chat. Sorry, when I start really cooking, I'm looking at the cooking. Um, I do use boneless chicken. I use boneless, skinless chicken, and I just double check to make sure that it doesn't have any bits of bone left, any bits of cartilage left, um, and okay. As far as oh, thank you so much for your donation, Cuckoo. I really appreciate that. We all do. Thank you. Um, I use half cornstarch and half flour because um, I was taught to cook with just flour, and it's always such a heavy breading. And for the Asian foods, when I was told to fry chicken, then they use just cornstarch. And cornstarch doesn't really brown, and it makes a really nice light. Um, it makes a nice light um, breading. Well, I wanted to find a happy medium, so I started adding just a little cornstarch to the flour, and I found my balance at about half and half. What it does is it really crisps up the flour. Cornstarch makes such a really light, um, crunchy breading, and the flour, in and of itself, tends not to. So yeah, it's dredge. Yeah, it's half. This is just a dredge. It's the coating is going to be on the chicken, and yeah. So that's not going in the food. It's not going to be used for anything else except for dredging the chicken with. Just like the dredge that I made for the Parmesan chicken last week. Um, that didn't all go in either. That was cornstarch, flour, salt and pepper, oregano, basil, and in addition to that, Parmesan cheese. And um, it just coated the chicken quite nicely, actually. It was very nice and crunchy, and that was what we were looking for. Um, this is not the kind of dredging that I did for that. It is not a double dipping dredge where you would take and dredge it, put it in flour and then egg and then another kind of breading. Uh, this is not that at all. This is just direct in there. Um, just the one time through, because the point of it is it's a very, very light breading. And I just found some bone. And that happens when the factories and the people, the butchers, are doing this and they're in a hurry, and they will leave maybe tiny bits of bone, tiny bits of cartilage, things you don't want to eat, but that are really easy for them to overlook. So always check your food. You don't want to be biting into a chunk of bone. I'm sure everybody has at one point or another run into a piece of bone or something solid in their ground burger, and that's the same sort of thing. It's just, it happens when they put the meat in it. You can use cornstarch to fry instead of flour, but if you do that, oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Connor, for the gift of 20 subs. I can't believe you did that. That is so awesome. Uh, that is a wonderful gift. Thank you so much. That's incredibly generous. Um, we back to the question, can you use cornstarch only? Yeah, you can. It's not going to brown like flour does, and it is going to be really, really light coating, more like tempura. Tempura batter, by the way, is made with cornstarch and club soda mixed together, and it's a wet batter, and you could do that too. But this is a lighter coating even than tempura. And with the flour and uh, cornstarch, it just makes a really crunchy one. Oh, thank you so much for the cheer and the biddies, badass mama. So, thank you so much for that. And Connor, of course I supported you. You deserve it. You're an awesome chef and a really good friend. He really is, people. If you haven't seen his cooking, catch his VODs, catch his live cooking if you can. He's cooks on British time, but it's always a good time to see him cook. He makes such lovely, delectable things with his rotisserie chicken. And they are, as a matter of fact, the only rotisserie chicken available in all of Gloucestershire. What was that? Oh, Tina Bug, thank you for the cheers. Thank you so much for the biddies. That is so awesome of you, too. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I wanted to assure you all, any money we get for this goes to improving the stream, getting that extra camera, getting the camera equipment, and some of the equipment that we have lost since starting. Just perils of buying cheap stuff, I guess. Started this on a shoestring with a $20 camera, and it didn't take long, halfway through my first month of streaming, and the camera was already dying. So, get what you pay for. That's all I can say there. And I am basically cleaning this up, taking out some of the extra fat, taking out any sinew I find, taking out any cartilage or bone. And it is fighting back and trying to stay. So, oh, thank you so much for the cheer, Professor Niels. Thank you and welcome in. And you made those wonderful emotes that you were giving away free, and as they were food based and just wonderful, I put them on my stream. Thank you so much for those. You're incredibly talented and such a wonderful guy. He is also a TLD streamer, and he needs to have a shout out too. He is a professor at a college, and he teaches about games. And not only does he have really entertaining streams, thank you so much, Connor. I appreciate the tips too. He also does analysis of the games. What exactly goes into designing the games, why they do what they do, and it's really pretty fascinating. So if you haven't seen Professor Niels, give him a look. And oh, thank you so much, an anonymous cheerer. I appreciate that. And we have a hype train going. Woo! Thank you so. Oh, I just made the dog howl. Sorry. I I'm already under a level 5 hype train. Oh man, that is incredible, you guys. I can't believe that. Thank you so much for your support and encouragement and being here at wacky hours for some of you. I just really appreciate that. You're joining me today for a Asian food feast. I have made a sweet and sour sauce that's cherry based for my mother to eat because she can't eat what I'm making right now. I have made egg fried rice, and I have also, now I'm in the preparations of making the almond fried chicken that's going to go with the almond gravy I made and the fried rice and everything else. So that's one container of chicken. Let's get the other container of chicken because this is one of my husband's favorite dishes, so he wants me to make a lot, and I'm going to oblige. He does so much for me, it's so little for him to ask me to make him some extra chicken. So I've got chicken here that is semi-thawed, so it's going to take a little bit longer to cook. Um, it's about 8 minutes to 10 minutes to cook larger chicken thighs. If they're thawed completely, this will probably take 10 to 12 minutes. Honestly, you need to check them, and I will be doing that. Thank you so much for the hype train, you guys. This is a level 5 hype train. We're at 86%. That is just incredible, guys. Thank you so much for the gift subs, for your showing up, your support, your questions, your engagement in my channel. I just appreciate it so much. You guys are an amazing community, both the food and drink community that are in here and the long dark community, which has a far higher percentage of foodies and chefs than you would think. There's several of the streamers out there that are professional chefs. Um, oh, you just followed me on YouTube. Yes, we have my old VODs are available now on YouTube. So if you have missed any of my streams and you want to go and look at them and see me cook the recipes that are still posted in my stream recipes on Discord, you can find them now on YouTube if you do a little search for Cooking with Hedgepigs. So I've almost got this going through. Oh, what was that? Oh, we just went 100%. Oh, wow. Thank you so much for the bits, Connor. That is incredibly generous of you. Thank you so much. It's just incredible of you to do this for me. It's just, wow. Holy moly, Connor. That is an incredible, generous gift. Thank you so much. Andrew and I appreciate everything you do for us, and we appreciate all of our viewers. And he appreciates the opportunity to get me to make him food that he likes. So we're also good there. And I'm just cutting off little icky bits. That would be the bits that still have the sinew and some cartilage attached. And I am just about done with that. And then I will turn on the heat on my frying pan and begin laying the chicken in. And this will have to be done in batches. And this will have to be done more carefully, or I'm going to end up lopping off a finger. And that would be bad. It's always bad to have the chef make gestures and they're missing a few fingers here and there when they're doing it. So something's gone on there. And I've got a piece of chicken down at the very bottom that doesn't want to come up. Okay, so as I said, to recap, yes, you can make this with just cornstarch. I find the flavor is lacking somewhat, and I find basically that it doesn't brown. No matter how much you cook it, it turns white. There does seem to be a lot of overlap between foodies and the long dark, and it's something I have remarked upon every time I have discovered that yet another long dark streamer is also a chef. I am going to take, I mean, I know of probably at least three, if not four. I would include myself in that, except for the fact that I don't stream the long dark because my computer's not good enough. So I can play the long dark, and that's going to have to be good enough. Choo choo. Um, yeah, we always end up talking about food. We're there in the game, and you've got somebody, struggling to shoot a moose or clean it, or against a blizzard that's come up, and one or more of us is over there talking about egg fried rice, or the chicken parmesan they had, or the escargot. All right, my chicken is ready. My chicken dredge is ready. I need to get the dirty knife out of the way so I don't use it. And I'll get those out of the way. And now I get the plug out for my fryer and move it forward into view for everybody to see. And I wonder verbally where the heck my oil went. It's all the way over there.
Down there.
Yes,
So the place to put it.
well, it fell right off the table.
Is this a dirty chicken knife?
That's the dirty chicken knife and the bits of dirty chicken over there. It's a dirty, dirty chicken. Can you use big pieces of chicken or small pieces of chicken? Yeah, it really doesn't matter. You could cube the chicken and throw it out there. You could use chicken breasts instead of chicken thighs. I find chicken thighs have better flavor because they're higher in fat content. Um, and that tends to be the same whether you're talking chicken or turkey or anything like that. The hind parts of the beast tend to be higher in fat. So I can certainly identify with that as well. Um, I am going to turn this up to about 300 because this is going to be a high heat fry, as was the um, chicken parmigiana. And this really isn't measured. You just need to put in enough oil. This is probably half a cup so that you can get a good fry going. Um, it's not a deep fat fry, but it's what my grandmother would recognize as we're cooking chicken. So I've got the temperature up at 300, and I need to let the oil heat a little bit. And then I will go into the chicken again and start coating it. Might as well start now. This is not going to take that long to heat. Yeah, I'm going to heat it up to 350 to start. And we basically take the chicken, which is already wet, and we put it in the cornstarch, salt and pepper, and flour mixture and give it a very light coating. It's just a solid white coating basically that's really not very thick. You can shake off the extra. And as you can see, this is a very light coating of chicken, um, of the coating. And that's really the way this recipe is intended. It's kind of modernized from the heavier chicken coating that you see in the old recipes where, you know, quite frankly, a lot of times they were very greasy because as you put cold things in hot oil, it lowers the heat of the oil. And that's bad because that gives the flour a chance to absorb more oil than it normally would. and so you end up with, well, greasy food. That's why some of the, especially during the times when the restaurant is busy, if you're getting something that's fried, chances are you might end up getting some um, more greasy food than you would normally have, and it's just a fact. Husband life. My husband is paid very well for his efforts here in the food, so it's a lot of work for him, but he does, as a matter of fact, get well paid, well compensated for it. Um, I would say right now that my channel points redeem emote was made by Glittered Kitten, and she makes emotes for a lot of the streamers that I know, and she's just wonderful at it. She is developing my subscription badges and my other emotes that I'm going to have, and it's a process, and she is a busy woman, so I will be getting them sooner or later. And as I said, I have the two emotes that I got from Professor Niels, and they are a figgy pudding and a turkey, and they are just lovely. And he's another person who is not only a long dark streamer, but he also does pixel art, and those are some pretty entertaining streams too. He is also another foodie and someone that I enjoy torturing with pictures of my food and descriptions of what I have cooked. So that's some extra fun for me right there. And now you will see why, illustratively, you want to have two separate hands for doing this instead of doing what I do and always starting with two separate hands and then ending up just, you know, battering my fingers at the same time. Why did you do that, honey? For some reason, my channel chat is now covering everything. There we go. Off to the side again. Can you use gluten-free flour? Absolutely. Absolutely. Fortunately, and I can't believe I'm not allergic to gluten with everything else I'm allergic to, I am not allergic to gluten and no one else in the family is. Um, well, in the immediate family, the people I'm cooking for here, my aunt, one of my aunts is. But as I don't cook for her, I don't worry about it. She lives on the family farm in eastern Washington, and she cooks for herself. So that's not a big concern for me at this point. However, for people who are, celiac, need to have gluten-free, yes, absolutely. Use gluten-free flours. I know they have them out there now. And basically, that's the protein in the flour that you're allergic to. And it's difficult. It's as difficult as my garlic allergy, really, because glutens are in everything. Everything's got flour. Everything's got something. It's got breading. It's got pasta. And although restaurants are getting more sensitive to that as well, and putting in gluten-free um, recipes in their food as well, so that's nice. Makes it so everybody can go out and get some nice food. However, part of what I'm doing here is showing you that you don't need to be a chef to make good tasting food. You don't need to be a trained chef to cook foods that taste like you got them in a restaurant. And that was the oil deciding to spit at me, which is part of the fun of wearing short sleeves when you're cooking. I find generally, even if I'm wearing long sleeves, that I have rolled them down or rolled them up because otherwise I'll get flour and everything else in my sleeves and, drag them all over everywhere, and then my sleeves are just all manky. So I am done with the cornstarch and flour, and I used maybe half of what I put in there. Maybe half. I don't even think that much. And now I am going to go into a whole series of hand washing because I have finished touching the raw chicken and the flour, and I need to get it off my hands. So I am using a antibacterial hand wash that is aloe and alcohol based, and I am just going to keep washing until it's gone. Not to wash the flour and such from my hands. And as I learned from handling the pork that I don't normally ever handle, a lighter wash is not good enough. Have to get in all between the fingers and the cracks and crevices so that you've really got everywhere handled, or you're really not safe, either from the bacteria that you could pick up from raw chicken, or for me, for the bits of pork, which are just deadly to me. I'm just violently allergic to pork. So you have seen, if you caught my ham and bacon ball that I made for the party food, that's probably the one and only time you're going to ever see me cook pork. Just not going to happen. It's not a good risk for me. So we eat a lot of chicken in my family, and we'll eat beef and eat a lot of fish. Yay for preventing foodborne illness, exactly. Alright, so my hands are clean again, and I've got my pile of paper towels off to the side, and I am going to get out my little tongs here and watch over my chicken like a hawk. And as you can see here, some of the topping has come off, some of the cornstarch and all has gone into the oil, and that's fine. It's going to make it very browned in there, and if this was my grandmother's recipe for fried chicken, first of all, this would not be vegetable oil. This would be corn oil, because that's what she always fried in, no matter what. She always had a gallon jug of corn oil, and that's what she cooked her chicken in. And she just used flour, and she didn't salt and pepper it, so it always just tasted a little bland. But then with all of the little floury bits that come off your chicken here while you're frying it, those scrape up and make absolutely wonderful gravy. What she would do is add even more flour to the corn oil that was left behind, that is now flavored by the chicken, and she would whisk the flour into it and cook it in a roux until that was slightly golden as well. And then she would warm some milk and pour milk into it and whisk it, and she would make a white gravy, a milk gravy that she would then pour over mashed potatoes, and you could dunk her chicken in, and it was just ambrosia. It was just the best. Of course, really low in calories, but that was fine because this was farm food. This was food that was developed and from the Midwest, and it was recipes that she learned from her mother, and she was feeding folks that worked hard physical labor all day, like you would see in the farms. My grandmother's father and her brothers helped put in the railroad from New York to Washington State. And I mean, they leveled the stuff, they leveled the ground, they removed the rocks, they put down the railing, they put down the posts for it, and it was just hard, brutal, physical labor all day long. She grew up in railroad towns. where she was exposed to the Chinese immigrants that came in and did the work, and Mexicans that came in to do the work. And so she actually grew up speaking several different languages, which later she did not speak anymore. But she grew up until she was 18 in that particular environment of a railroad town that just was erected in that area with little shacks. And they'd move on when they were done with the railroad in that area. And her father died at work at 50 from just the strain of it. And he was a first generation American. He moved over here from Turkey. And her mother that married him moved across with the rest of the people in the railroad, and they were transported by covered wagon, believe it or not. And she met my grandfather there working the railroad as well. Grandpa was an engineer, and not engineer as in a designer, but engineer for the railroad, which means he drove the trains. And they met there, and 2 weeks later they eloped. And they were together for 56 years. And it was really inspiring. They knew each other 2 weeks, and that was long enough. You have to cook the chicken. If these were thawed, about 8 to 10 minutes for a larger breast or thigh, but because these are partially frozen, this is probably going to be 12 to 15 minutes. And you can either test them, test them with a thermometer if you can't see colors, like my husband can't. He is colorblind. Or you can test them the way I do, which is cut them open and make sure that the chicken juices are not even slightly pink. So it has to reach, I believe, 165 degrees. 165, 180, something like that. I'd have to look it up. No pink. No pink in the flesh. No pink in a juice that comes from it. So you have a chicken to monitor. So you're cooking chicken right now, Badass Mama? That is not a weakness, honey. That is so adorable that you need to come to me and ask me to tell you what color the foods are. So when he's cooking hamburger, when he's cooking chicken, he can't tell the pink. So, oh, you cooked it earlier. All right. This is probably. Okay, well, my husband came out and he made a gesture. Sorry, I put chicken stuff on the edge of my camera. My husband came out and made a certain gesture. Ooh, chicken Alfredo dairy-free. What dairy-free product do you use? Do you use coconut milk or just non-lactose milk? Yeah. What dairy-free milk product do you use? Do you use oat milk or... I made a recipe for my mother with unsweetened coconut milk earlier, and you couldn't taste it, but it made it so she could eat it, and we didn't notice it, so it was all good. Oh, almond milk. Okay. Yep, you can definitely do that. It works quite well. These are some really thick chicken thighs. All I can say is these are some chunky chickens. These are maybe half cooked at this point. It's going to take a bit longer. Like I said, these were not thawed completely. We took them out a couple hours before stream and used the microwave on them. Um, it was kind of up in the air last night still because I was still feeling rather ill, whether or not I was going to be able to stream at all today. So I need to turn that little devil over too. So that one is also not cooking quite as fast as I would like. I'm not going to turn it up over 350 because then I'd be burning the chicken. Yeah, we had some doctor's appointments for my parents, which were televisits. So that kind of took up some of the preparation time. We ended up only having an hour and a half to prepare, and that's kind of short. My husband, I'm disabled. I walk with crutches now, and I walk with crutches, and I can't carry things. And so my husband does all the setup and does all the ferrying back and forth and gets everything ready. I just give him a list and point. And he also does all the cleanup, bless his heart, does all the washing, all the putting away, all the breaking down of the table that we've got here and the camera and the equipment and everything. And without him, this would not be possible. I would not be streaming anything except peanut butter sandwiches, and that's if I could understand the camera, which I really don't. So he's also my stream tech, and he is a very good man. I lucked out when I met him, and I knew it from the first. So no, I don't understand anything technological. Okay, go ahead. You can go ahead and finish seeing this. Catch on the bod to see the rest of it. Oh, you made a few clips from earlier streams of yours today. Oh, that would be awesome. I'd love to see them. And that'll be awesome to see. Thank you so much, Nog. And have a good night. Have a good rest. I know you work. I know you have little kids. And my heart goes out to you because if you stay up late, bless them, they don't. They get up at the same time no matter what. And that's a difficult road to hoe. So thank you for showing. And thank you again, Nagatron, for everything you do and your support here and your constant shout outs to me in your streams, which I appreciate more than you could know. Let's give him another shout out, please, so that anybody who hasn't seen him can go see him and watch him stream The Long Dark, which is shorter than a corgi. And we'll see you next time, Nog. I'll catch you next time you're streaming. And when this chicken is done, we will be ready to do the fun of plating and then the more fun of the eating. If you like watching The Long Dark, it is definitely worth it to see. He is a really entertaining streamer. He gets his whole family involved. Mrs. Nog is his stream hostess, and for a couple thousand of his stream points, you can give the con to his children, and they just love that. And he has a couple boys, or a boy and a girl, I can't really tell. They just go by an initial, and at that age, it's hard to tell the difference in voices. So we turn the con over to them, and they talk about whatever it is they want to talk about while Daddy is playing the game, or you can turn the con over to Mrs. Nog, and it's a very entertaining stream. All boys. Oh boy. Oh boy. All boys. Well, that can be fun in a way too. So, I can't see any way that goes wrong. He is a wonderful person to watch. He does scientific exploration of how the game works. And if you're not familiar with it, it is a survival game, one person, and basically the you may be the last person in existence, you don't know. There has been a electromagnetic storm and all of the power is off. Nothing technological works, including cars. And you have to survive in basically a horrible, hideous, freezing cold winter where the animals are out to eat you. Except for the bunnies, the little bun-buns. They're harmless. Or so they'd have you think. I personally believe the bun-buns are behind it all. But there's a lot of the streamers here. Tinabug is a streamer. Nagatron is a streamer here. A lot of my support are streamers. Silvery Frost streams this, and he's a chef. And another person is The Long Dark Forever. And he is a streamer and a chef. And he also streams The Long Dark, obviously by his name, The Long Dark Forever. And he's very entertaining too, and his channel is filled with cooking and recipes and food talk, and it's just a great time to be had if you like food and like to watch somebody play a game. So, ouch, that's really starting to spatter. And my dog is starting to tune up in the background because he's smelling chicken cooking, and chicken is his food of choice. Until I'm cooking steak. Then steak is his food of choice. Or pizza. All right. Yeah, he does have a definite New England vibe, and he's quite the man. So we enjoy watching him stream. And of course, a lot of us enjoy all things Long Dark. So that helps. I do not see the fork my husband was talking about earlier, but I will keep looking. I'm sure it's under here somewhere. There it is. And it allows me to hold down the chicken and cut into it to see how done it is. And I know it's not going to be done yet. And it is not. It is still quite a little bit pink in the middle. And I'm going to test more than one, because that's how you do it. You just cut it most of the way through, and you look, and that is probably a few minutes away. We're almost done. No, I wasn't talking about you, Connor. I was talking about another chef. The Long Dark community for the game, The Long Dark, is unusually high in concentration of chefs, both professional chefs and foodies, and it's just, there's so many of them. I think you'd like the game if you ever got into it, Connor. It's pretty fun, and it's kind of food-centric as well, in that you're trying to keep yourself from starving and trying to keep things from eating you. Although you don't have to worry about that because they don't have chickens in the game, so there will be no revenge against you for your chicken cooking ways. Okay, this is, like I said, almost done. I am going to cut into a couple more. And that's almost done. And yes, by the time I'm done, I will probably cut into all of these. Just because. Our tester, oh, that's definitely still a little pink. Just the juices, not the flesh anymore. So it's probably a couple minutes from being done. And cooking for a living is fun. Why don't you allow that, honey? I don't know why that's moderated. Meat thermometer is, I don't know why it modded that. Yes, we do have a meat thermometer, but it's a battery run one and it's out of batteries. So we need to replace that. It doesn't really bother me to not have one. The meat thermometer is really for Andrew or if I'm cooking a roast. So and in this case, you just keep turning the pieces of chicken until they're done, and that's bits of breading that have come off of other or settled on the bottom, and that's lovely crispy deliciousness that generally gets snagged right out of the pan and munched on. Night, Mrs. Nuggetron. Thank you for coming. Check the bod for the big reveal. And we are almost there. Take that tiny piece out. And blow on it because it's smoking hot. I'm going to see what it tastes like with the breading. If it's seasoned correctly. Very, very, very hot. But it is seasoned correctly. Doesn't need any salt. And I know that this is done now. So I am going to turn it off. And I'm going to ask my husband for another container that doesn't contain chicken blood. A pan that we can put some paper towels on, because I've run out of paper towels, and then I can drain the fried chicken in it. And then we'll be ready to start dishing this up and showing you how wonderful this meal is going to be. Okay. And the paper towels from back there. Thank you. So I've got another plastic container here, and I am going to put paper towels down in it. And if you are frying something, that is the best way to do it, is to, when you remove your chicken from the frying, you take and you put it down on paper towels so any extraneous grease will get drained off. And think I'm going to want that long, thin plate too for plating up the sweet and sour. I know. Yes, I know.
Throw this away.
Yes. Gonna loosen that up. Put that in there. And normally I would say that this would all be going to waste, but I know my husband and it won't. He likes the crispy bits, so I'm gonna drain those for him as well. And all that is the remainders of the flour and cornstarch that cooked together and came off the chicken. And quite a bit like, everybody loves the crunchy bits and the coating and all. So we love that. All right. Now he can, yep, bring that back in and take this out of the way, if you would, over the top of me. Okay. So now I'm bringing back in my sweet and sour sauce and my chicken, and I have rice somewhere. Yeah, just put that there. So now the way we like to cook it, we like to do it. Can you put some of the regular steamed rice on here? Because Mom's not going to be allowed to have the other. I'm going to take some of my egg fried rice and put that down on the plate. Thank you. And trying to make this pretty at the same time. This is going to be for my husband because he likes it this way. And I am going to go ahead and put that in the middle because we tend to pile it up on top of it. And no, I'm not a food stylist. I am having a good night, Helen. I am glad to see you come in. I'm sorry you've come in at the end, but at least you get to see the reveal. I have made egg fried rice. I have made sweet and sour sauce for the chicken. I have made an almond chicken gravy for the chicken. And the rice is lovely and tasty, and it's going to get even better once I put my almond chicken gravy over it. So I am going to put that plate aside. Huh? No, I didn't. I know. I am going to take a couple nice pieces of chicken that look lovely and golden and place them on top here. And one that's maybe a little less golden. I still need this is the almond gravy that I made earlier. And we put this. Now the way you would normally see this plated up, it's served to you in restaurants with the almond chicken, the fried chicken and gravy on top of a layer of shredded lettuce. We don't do that. We put that on top of fried rice, which is where it should be, and put a lot of gravy on it because that's also how it should be. And then we garnish that with some shredded almonds. And these could be toasted or not. I think they're fine the way they are. So that's what we're putting. And that is our almond chicken, fried almond chicken on top of the egg fried rice. And then I have got another plate here that I am going to put some steamed rice on. And this is just plain I need another spoon, honey. You took away all my implements. Okay. And I'm going to take some steamed rice here and put it on the plate for my mother. And I had some fun with my pay and went out and bought some individual plates just for the fun of plating up and photographing it. So I am going to do this the same way. I'm going to lay the rice out in a nice little display. And then I'm going to take a piece of chicken for her. Ouch. And place it down, and you see all that lovely golden crunchiness. What are you doing? Shadow puppets. Oh my god. All right. My husband's making shadow puppets out of you. And for this, I am going to get out put that in there for now. I'm going to get out the sweet and sour sauce that I made earlier. And I'm going to put some of this loveliness over the top of her chicken. And this is made with cherry pie filling and sweet onions and green peppers and pineapple and vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and it makes an absolutely lovely sweet and sour sauce. And it's just like the ones we got in 2 of our favorite Chinese restaurants. And here we go. This is my sweet and sour chicken, and it's on top of steamed rice. And then here is my almond fried chicken with almond gravy, and that's on top of egg fried rice. And you have 2 of my favorite Chinese restaurant recipes that are Americanized highly. And the next time you see me, we will be making chicken egg rolls. So now let's see. Why don't we rate the AFK Kitchen? She is another lovely person, and she does a stream for charity and benefits of Children's Hospital and the Starlight Foundation. And She cooks dinners once a week for feeding 50 people at their local food bank. So let's go ahead and raid Kathy at the AFK Kitchen. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, Connor, for the bits. Thank you for the gifted subs. Thank everyone who donated bits. The anonymous cheerer, um, Tina Bug, everybody. You're just the most amazing people. And we'll see you next time. And I believe that will be Thursday or Friday, depending on how I'm feeling. And I'm looking probably at doing it Thursday. And it will be a Thursday night stream about the same time. And thank you. You're so welcome for the stream. And we will now be going to go raid the AFK Kitchen. I hope you stick along, and we'll see you next time.